Hi. Wait, hold. Fuck, I fucked up! Guys, I fucked up! Ah! Wait, how? No one should make me in charge of anything ever?
Gain, because you are a little bit quiet.
No.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Get further away. Whisper.
God.
It started out as a whisper.
Make it ASMR.
Why? This is okay. Let me explain something here. Let me explain. Here, I'm gonna get closer. I don't know what I'm doing. Just ever in general. I'm the one running the stream today, and I forgot to put the output audio for bitches to hear it. Ah!
Who are you calling bitches?
Them.
Everyone.
not
By
us.
the way, can they
I
hear us
know.
now?
We can hear it.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, hi,
Welcome to
everyone.
Reds of the Wild. I had a really cool intro. Lex decided it wasn't good. Lex decided to cut it.
Oh no.
I'm dumb. Ah!
No, you're not.
So,
No, you're not.
I'm
Yeah.
a little.
It's just streaming.
This is the most bird-like I think you've sounded the entire. I'm dumb.
Hi, folks.
Hurtful,
Welcome to
but not
Realms of the
accurate.
Wild recap. Today, you guys get to ask me all of the salacious details of the past 5.5 years. You guys have questions about weird things that happened that I never explained. You guys want to know, backstories for random characters that only showed up once. I've got it all up in here. Also, you can ask all the players all the stuff that you want to, and I will almost guarantee Ilea will dodge most of your questions about Zulta's backstory. But you are welcome to ask them. I do have
If they help me write my pre-conference, I will not. I will answer questions honestly.
so I will
Answer
be
them. What's the point?
I will be keeping an eye on chat. However, to make things easier for us, if you do have a question for us, start off your chat message with question, just to make it easier for us to locate them.
In capital letters.
Capital letters are nice too. If you want to, you can use your rupees to highlight your message, and that'll make it even easier for us to find. So, question: how do I do this? I don't know. Christian, Ilea, why does Zulta hate the Geneva Convention?
Zolta has no thoughts on the Geneva Convention. It doesn't exist in Hyrule.
Geneva Convention? Oh, you mean the Geneva Suggestion?
So, announcements really, really quick. Lex, do we have, well, first things first, ZU, quite a bit of ZU actually, is at PAX East.
There's like
Right
8 of them
now.
there. Actually, Elias is at PAX East. We had him Skype his hotel room. So anything any questions geared toward Elias will be answered by his hotel room, which is why you'll see no response.
Sometimes
And
in
that's
chat.
it.
Periodically.
So, yeah,
Well,
if you are at
first
PAX
shows up,
East, fine. I know Elias and Amanda are there. Who else is there from ZU?
We got
There's
an
a lot of
Elias.
people.
We got a Peyton. We got a Amanda. We got a Mary. We got a Jess. We got Alec and stuff. He's also technically part of ZU. If you've seen any of the Honey Heists, David RDW's also there. Lots of friends of the channel. HMK is also there, also friend of the channel.
Have a good day.
All the cool people. So go find them and tell them hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
So yes, find all the ZU people. Yesterday, they did their panel, which was super, super cool. I think if you go to the VOD from PAX 2,
Yeah, Twitch.tv/PAX
yesterday you
Dose.
can still find it. I don't know what the timestamp is because it's generally like these big old long, like 6-hour blocks of stuff.
I think they also VOD them at near the end to be what their blocks were. I
So.
missed the whole thing, sadly, so.
Anyway, so that's really cool. Another announcement that I actually had somewhat of a hand in. There is a thing called the ZU Cast. It is a podcast that has been going off and on for like a decade. That has had various incarnations, and it kind of stalled out about a year-ish, 2 years ago. I volunteered to kind of get it back on track, and as far as the latest update I have heard, it is actually ahead of schedule as far as production is concerned. And we are expecting the first episode of the new version of the ZU Cast to be out in April. In mid-April is when we are planning on it. So please, I believe it's going to be on the YouTube channel, but we're going to be doing everything we can to get it just about everywhere you can find podcasts.
It should be on everything, so
definitely check it out. I put a fair amount of work into it, and then the people that are actually creating the segments and hosting and everything, and especially Connor, the new manager of the Pippa podcast, is putting so much work and is doing such a great job. And it's a new format. It's a unique thing that I think is going to be really, really interesting and for fun. So keep looking for it in a bunch of different places.
And
Elias has come.
Elias!
Elias has entered the chat.
So yes.
I will also say that if Connor was also involved last week in our Cthulhu one shot that I ran, which the VOD is now up for it. So if you'd like to see Aelia...
After pestering the VOD team all week, wondering, hey, when's that
I was proud of it! I'm sorry.
For future VODs go up about 1 week after Realms airs.
Well, but Realms isn't going to air anymore.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, it is.
Okay.
It's just
I put a lot of work in it.
Elias, I'm done. I'm moving to Abu Dhabi, and I am not going to have internet anymore. So
yeah, that's
but
fine.
We're not going to be called a Realms. We're going to be called something else. Elias, I'm not going to lie. It's really weird to see you so awake.
It's crazy.
It's great to be awake. I got to sleep in for once in my life before this show.
Now you know how I felt in New
time
Jersey.
is terrible, but this is one perk of it.
And yet you weren't the first one in the chat.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah. Kiri won that
like
today.
I said, I slept in.
You know, this is why this was the perk of being in the East Coast.
The single perk.
So, Elias, real quick.
I didn't realize you had this much energy.
We have told people to stalk you at PAX, and we've talked about the podcast, which will hopefully be coming out in April. Are there any other ZU style and announcements?
Probably.
There's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes that we're not ready to talk about yet. I mean, there's tons of really cool stuff coming.
Yeah.
But as far as stuff we could actually talk about, ZUcast and PAX.
What are we doing next week?
It's a good question, Elias. You and I had a conversation. I can't remember exactly what we decided. So we'll announce what we're doing at the end of this. So yeah.
Great.
Time to figure out that plan.
You've got roughly hour and a half, 2 hours to figure out what you're doing. So yeah. Otherwise, I think it is time for us to return to the realms of the wild.
I'm not switching games. I'm not switching overlays.
So,
no.
As anyone that's been watching this knows, beginning of Realms was a conversation I'm assuming that Elias had with other people at ZU, and then he eventually went, "Oh, I know." I know someone that can do RPG type stuff. Jody, do you wanna run an RPG? And yeah, originally he pitched it as running an actual D&D game, and I suggested Open Legend, and then we went through the pre-production process. And I believe I've talked to each one of you about kind of the genesis of your characters, except for our amazing and wonderful Kiri Callaghan, published author, thespian, awesome person in general.
Yeah, she keeps avoiding it. I'm waiting to hear the excuse this time.
Yeah.
She's gotta go walk her fish.
Hey, I had legitimate reasons for not being here for this.
No, I know.
Calcifer needs me right now, so I'll be back after you're not talking.
Kiri is
Next week,
very booked, and Kiri's aggressively
Next week I'll be at
booked.
WrestleMania. There's that
Oh,
one.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you
so
working
excited.
it or just attending?
No, like that was a
She's wrestling.
Christmas present
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
from Angelique.
Oh,
She bought me WrestleMania tickets.
that's
I'm
rad.
really excited.
That's very cool. Is it going to be
With the
in
steel
California, or do you
chair.
have to like go somewhere
It's
else
in
for it?
SoFi.
Oh,
Where is that? I don't know where that is.
that's in LA proper.
That's
That's
the big
SoFi Stadium.
stadium.
Oh,
It's for
okay.
the LA Rams.
That's where it's also where we went to go see the Super Bowl last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
Very cool.
Damn. So that's super.
Forgot.
So
cool. That's
anyway,
convenient.
Kiri
I'm
Callaghan,
excited. Yes.
let's talk about how much do you remember about kind of your introduction to this beyond? I think I contacted you through Twitter.
I think there was some of that, yeah. And then you're like, I'll send you a pitch email. And
Yeah, because I used to do this over email.
Mm-hmm.
so that was all good. I don't remember much about that process or how much was pre-decided. My real like formulated words are hard. My first memory of it really is the chemistry game that
Mhm.
I psychotically agreed to do. Was it Saturday or Sunday?
I believe it was a Sunday.
So it was the Sunday after the Labyrinth Masquerade, which means I had just done 2 performances that last like 12 hours of interacting with people until like in character until the wee hours of the morning. And then we did it, I think, at 9 a.m. on Sunday. And I was like, why? Why am I doing this? I'm a crazy person. And I think I still have a gif of having 2 tries
Mm-hmm.
and drinking it.
I still have that game. I've got a
That's
I've
when
got
Ailea was a fairy.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a fun one. Ailea decided to play a non-speaking character.
And very much not a murderer.
Yeah, it was weird.
She could
Wild.
speak. It was
Yeah.
just that she had issues with Hylians, and there were Hylians in the game.
All of
Yeah,
them.
I think she took the flaw of her flaw was effectively selective mutism.
Yeah, I think it was phobia.
Yeah.
Is the name of the flaw. And the fairy's backstory was like about being trapped by Hylians and used by them and like escaping and this whole thing. So she had issues with Hylians and the potential of being held captive again.
So yeah, so that was kind of our first introduction to Kess. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think a ton of Kess changed massively between the chemistry
I think
game
she was
and
a
the
little
actual thing.
less mad scientisty in the original game.
Yeah, because well, so
Yeah.
when we first did character cards and everything like that, we had like a weapon or something or something for each character. And if I remember correctly, because I was the person that was given the authority to decide what they were, I just said that Kess's was aggressive learning.
Yes.
And
I took that and ran with that, my friend.
it turned great.
And so every logic roll was 46.
So let's talk about Kess, especially since you and I are both actors, and like it's very rare that I get to really kind of dig into the kind of actory stuff that we do. So as far as like where Kess came from, did you have like a lot of thought of what you wanted Kess to be, or is more of I need to create a character for this works, and then she eventually evolved?
I mean, it always starts with, especially when it's a new group, like what will there's usually 2 questions. What will I be excited to play? that I know how to play, even if I'm in a group of role players that I might not necessarily know the style. And then also, how will this character contribute to moving the story forward? Because I think we've all been in a game at some point where you get so, oh no, sorry, a button on my chair is apparently going loose. And I have to fix that.
We've all had those games that we've
no,
and they're gone. Oh no.
It's tufted. But we're like, we all love the chaos. I'm not denying that. But where nobody, like, no one's character seems to be involved in the idea of like, we gotta go save the princess or whatever it is we need to do. So I was like, okay, if I make someone who's just aggressively curious and the world is broken in some way, that will push us forward, at least in a way of like, wait, stop the crazy one from continuing to go towards the potentially dangerous portal thing. And then I usually ended up becoming that person of like, Zolta, don't touch it. That was my thought process initially.
That very interesting. You actually kind of transition gave me a pretty good transition into the idea of what, as you got to know Kess better and as she started to develop, what was the most surprising thing about Kess to kind of come up over the past 5.5 years?
I did not expect her to kind of become the brains of the operation. Like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this, and like, this is how we're gonna get there. Like, I did not expect to take on any form of a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
And that was confusing to me. And I think I fought it a little bit too much at the beginning, that it made it not fun for me, because I was just like, no, this is not what I wanted to do. And then I was like, no, this is the only thing that makes sense. Just do it. Just fucking do it.
When you're not here, we throw people into walls.
We do, and we touch things we're not supposed to, and we endanger all of the rest of the party.
Or you do a thing, or you do a thing, and you accidentally throw yourself into the Shadow Realm.
Was Kiri here when I accidentally blew up the bakery and all of the buildings around it?
Oh yes,
she
because
was.
I absolutely was one of the people going,
know.
hey, are you aware that flour is insanely combustive?
I want to know if that was a non-Kiri decision, or I'm just gonna do this.
Some
and
of my
being there.
Okay,
I think my favorite.
Just...
I think my favorite Kiri wasn't here moment that comes that I can recall, because I haven't had coffee enough. Was when we were having the confrontation with the manager's henchmen in the alleyway. And I love that comment too. But
the manager's henchmen.
They were like, if you ever want to see Fred again, Arel, you know where to find us. And Elia and I were like, okay, bye, Fred.
Yeah. We're like, we're
good.
Like,
abandoned him. We're like, we don't need you. Go ahead and die. Peace out.
I don't even know who Fred is.
I also don't know who Fred is. Who the fuck is Fred?
Do you remember?
So annoying.
Do you remember when we went into to meet the manager, and there was like that little super happy dent puppy friend who was just like, no, this is great. Everything is great. And we met him at the bar.
No.
He was an NPC specifically designed to annoy Elias.
There are
That
so many
tracks.
characters to which you could be referring.
But also, yeah, there's more than one. I don't know. You're gonna have to be more specific, fam.
Yeah, the kid that was in the tavern.
Checks.
Back up. How many characters were designed to annoy me?
Oh.
There was that one.
Well, there was that
Korok
one.
showed up
There
at
was the
end.
Korok, which I have to admit, I didn't design the Korok. That was a chat redemption for someone who shall remain nameless unless they show up in chat.
I know it was Kelly.
It was
So
Kelly.
Yeah, and Kelly specifically said, I want them to annoy Elias as much as possible.
So that was Kelly. So the other one was you.
Yes,
and
there were many
Okay.
I think
Good to know, Jody. Good.
the Triforcers kind of had a little bit of that. Let's see if we can annoy Elias built into them, but they were also meant to annoy the entire party.
They were just Team Rocket. I'm slightly upset in hindsight now that they didn't show up somehow in like the final thing.
I thought about it, but the finale, because Don and I had a lot. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. I want to finish with Kiri's stuff first, but I have some really interesting stuff about how the finale became. But so yeah, we had a question from Imp actually for Kiri. What's something you wanted to have Kestrel build but never got around to or able to?
I had two because we had all those schematics. I definitely had a solar saw on that, as well as a auto digger.
That would have
Still
been
not quite
very
sure what I was
cool.
going to use them for, but I absolutely. It's like,
I could totally see you going like full on Spelunky of, oh, there's a room below me and I don't want to have to go through all these things. We'll just dig through the floor.
it's fair.
Oh, we'll just go through the wall.
Yeah.
Eat your heart out, Dig Dug.
I think that was the biggest thing that changed is in the original chemistry game. I feel Kess was a bit more this belongs in a museum.
Mm-hmm.
Like don't
I
touch
think
it.
those words may have actually been said.
I
so
think
as
you
well.
have said that. You pulled an indie for a hot minute.
She was a bit more Indiana Jones with her spelunking, and it was a bit more like, don't do that, that's stupid, you're gonna die, or don't do that, that's a priceless artifact. Now it just became, please don't do that, you will die, you will kill us all.
Well, and then like one of my
Probably more
favorite
effective.
one of my favorite interactions that we had was when we were in the Zora city and Kess hookshotted herself to the roof and started playing with the lights that were keeping all of the water from crushing you guys. And it was the first time in years that Kess finally got to kind of encourage her curiosity and that aggressive learning aspect of it. She's like, well, yeah, I mean, theoretically, it might cause everyone to die, but look how cool this is.
Only in theory.
And I loved that.
Zolta had
Hypothetical
swimming.
death
She
is
would have been fine.
everywhere.
Yeah, Zolta's just sitting there going, you guys can't swim?
I can hold my breath a really long time.
She would have killed Aruna.
Oh god.
Aruna just would have been on the ground going.
Been there for the next several hours, just waiting
Yeah.
for my breath holding to give out.
I mean, last time it worked out for you. Just sinking to the bottom.
So as far as Kess, were there any aspects of her personality or any aspects of her backstory or background that you wanted to explore that we just didn't get the time to, or anything like that?
I mean, yes, but she has no idea, so I'm kind of okay with it.
Okay.
Because the thing we I don't even know if you remember, because of the somewhat, because I like doing kind of weirdly tragic backstories that aren't really tragic because the character doesn't know that they're tragic. Kess's parents were not her parents. Kess's parents were her aunt and uncle. Because her mother had been part of the Yiga clan and escaped with baby Kess. And I was waiting. I was like, at some point, this is going to come bite me in the ass. But because we were in a realm where like I just didn't exist, I was like, oh, all right. But nobody else existed. So that made sense to me. So she has no idea that her mom is not really her mom. It's her aunt.
Wait, so when we went back and everyone was restored, was that Kess's aunt then?
It was her aunt.
Okay.
Because her mom already died well before.
Mm-hmm. Kind of.
About to say, I think you specified at the end, like the people she knows as her parents are there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her mom kind of did a Link's mom from Ocarina of Time thing where.
Oh, you were raised by a tree?
Yeah, definitely raised by a tree.
Yeah, basically. She went and like no one really knew about it. So anytime we ran into Yiga, my brain was going, Is this going to end up being an existential
Is this
crisis
gonna be
moment? No,
like-
I escaped unscathed.
It's gonna be like a half sister or like a cousin that I didn't know about.
That's for the second. That's for the
Was the
second. one.
hand guy her
I'm gonna
dad?
play her secret twin. No, who never left the.
Yeah, Kess was actually triplets. One, left the Yiga clan, one stayed with the Yiga clan, and third one joined a traveling circus
That's
and
true,
became
yeah.
a juggler. Eventually put tightrope walking
70s
into the mix as well.
chainsaws, no more, no less.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. So, and I guess since we're already talking to you, I will start off with you. Because something that a lot of people don't realize, and I'm not even sure if the players realize that I do this as well. But when you give me your backstory, for the most part, in my mind, that is sacred. I do not change players' backstories unless my brain forgets things. However, if you don't specify something, I have no problem writing new parts of your backstory for you.
Honestly, that's what I usually do, just so it's like, this is enough for you to play with.
I
Go
thought
in
that's
this
what we
direction.
assumed. Like, you give me, like, as a GM as well, like, I will get things from my friends of, like, a backstory, and I'm like, cool. So these are what's set in stone. Now I can fuck with this. And give you, hey, so what do you think about going into this part of that backstory? Or how would you like this to come up naturally? Or, it's a conversation.
It's a
Spice-
conversation.
It's spicy. I don't know why I did.
No,
entirely.
keep talking.
No, sorry, I'm trying to use my mod powers,
What?
and I can't. Oh, there we go. You have to go to mod view.
Do we get a spammer?
Yeah, me.
God,
Jax was channeling Aurel a little too much.
I was.
How do you delete a specific? How do you delete a specific?
You
Post.
can't.
I got it.
Uh,
I deleted the messages as a whole.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, you say that, and yet I still see it.
I do too.
We're moderators. We're always going to see it.
Unable to
Okay.
delete
Oh, I thought it-
message.
Well,
What?
usually it shows me when you delete it.
Yeah, normally
It
I
has no
Well, we'll
strike
deal with
through.
that later. So we will start with Kess. I don't know if I did a whole lot of writing for Kess specifically, because unfortunately for you, like a lot of you guys don't realize before the show, like we've told you many times, we have long conversations before the show starts. But one of the things that happens is whenever anyone misses, when they come up, we go, oh, by the way, this is what went on, and we give them this brief. When Kiri would come, almost every single time that she would show up after she'd been gone for like a week or two, it would be, okay, this is what's going on. And Kiri would just go, what? And just have this look of like, I can't leave you guys alone for 5 minutes. And so, were there any things from the game that you personally didn't write about Kess, but became apocryphal through stuff that happened in the game, that you enjoyed, that you didn't enjoy? Anything that sticks out?
I don't think so. I am amused. I mean, other than Ilea and I making the joke about Zolta and Kess being a couple, and then it just somehow it became canon.
Became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think we actually. I do feel a little bad because I don't think we actually really fully nurtured that storyline. It was like a joke, and then just suddenly it wasn't a joke anymore.
Yeah, I don't know
'Cause
when
we were
that
like,
happened.
wouldn't it be funny if these two people who should not at all get along?
It's the best way to start
Yeah.
a marriage.
I mean, for Zolta, you literally gave her a ring that increased her power, so that's probably
She
the most
was hooked,
romantic
I
She
thing.
liked it. She put a ring on it.
Yeah.
So,
Whole thing.
along that line, let's open it up to other people here. We'll go with Lex.
Ah,
As far as Pierre, were there any aspects Pierre that as we were getting going, that kind of surprised you, or you were, you found really interesting, or new bits of lore that you didn't realize were part of his backstory until they were?
I mean, I was expecting the British accent to go a lot longer than it ended up doing because I am bad at accents.
You had a British accent?
I
At the
remember that.
very be-
I think I did too.
I mean, mine was also snootier. We should just listen to the opening trailer for this and see
No.
how far it's gone.
No, rather not. 'Cause it's
I
gonna
thought
make
about
me feel
playing
bad.
those at the beginning of this today, playing all the trailers.
God. I can't wait for the to make the new one where I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be some sort of person in Hyrule, I guess. But how we handled I guess his trauma a
Mhm.
little bit was something I wasn't expecting to go through. That was, I don't know, Realms was like the first real like really like long campaign I'd ever been involved with at that point. So really the biggest experience was learning how to like really be in the character and to really kind of figure out what the best way to go around it was. Elias, no. Stop. No, I can't delete the message. Oh, you.
Gotta love it.
God.
You
damn
could
it.
briefly unmod checks, delete the message, and then remod them.
Unfortunately, I can't unmod Elias.
Oh, I'm not talking about that. I'm still having solutions for the orgy link.
No, I'm just going at Elias because Elias decided to throw the Pierre clip in. You bitch.
I was really proud of the channel
it's fun.
trailers and everything. Like, I'm
just not proud of me in that moment.
well,
Well,
I'm proud of you.
I'm hoping therapy helps with that.
If I have the money for that, I will do it.
we got Pierre by the int. Remember, he can fly, so I'm proud of that character development.
Yeah.
But did it help at all? No. Because again,
it
I'm
did.
a dumb bitch. But yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of learning with Realms for me, mostly just because of the fact that like I hadn't really done a lot of like TTRPG stuff at that point, and now I do a bunch of it now, and now I kind of understand how all things kind of go. And at this point, because as part of doing Realms, I think I was only really watching stuff with Realms of the Wild and doing stuff with Realms for a couple years, and then I started watching more stuff like Critical Role, Dimension 20, Failed Save from Pixel Circus, our friends there, and like more in that realm. And now I understood, oh, so this is kind of what like the vibes for people having are the kind of cool things you can do with these systems. And so I'm like, okay, so what if I continue on that track and just start like having a little bit more fun and being more comfortable in it? So yeah, I think it's a lot more. I'm more surprised at myself for like finally being able to really adapt into actual play.
Always fun. Ilea, I think the last time we did this was before we had your story that got very, very dark.
Yeah, when I had to put a content warning on the email I sent to Jody, and then I had to send a new email with the stuff that needed a content warning redacted, basically. So yeah, I'm trying not to make a dark character for the next one. Trying.
Can we all make No Thoughts Head Empty?
I think
No.
that would make for a very interesting campaign. Everyone just like
That might be
if breeze and just you guys are in a brand new place.
If we were
No.
all head empty kind of a thing, it would not last 5.5 years before we would need new characters.
I can't play a himbo. I'm sorry.
And I'll play the himbo.
The problem solving is literally like my favorite part of these kinds of games.
I think that
then-
is the closest I get to Himbo.
All right, then it's my turn. Let me not do the think.
Well, speaking
Wasn't
of
it already your turn?
speaking of Aruna, were
dare
there
you.
any aspects of your backstory that surprised you when you found out what they were? So I think I actually did do a little bit of writing for Aruna. Not much,
I-
because we really didn't talk about your
we
backstory.
didn't really
but...
explore it too much, other than just stuff I already knew. Because my hang on, I have to delete Low Tide Queen's comment.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, we had, I think, a brief opportunity. I'll just not talk about it right now. We had a brief opportunity, I think, in Pierre's version of Hyrule, to maybe touch on some of it, but because he ended up being so bad at talking to people and was so blunt about his circumstances and sort of scared people off, he didn't really pursue it that much. But like, Iruna's whole thing was he left kind of on like a, geez, I don't know how I want to say this. Like he was upset that the Gorons weren't doing more to like do to like get out of their isolationism, which you saw that in an extreme in Pierre's version, but it was also kind of true in the Courage realm as well, to a lesser extent, but enough to have him just go off on his own and do that, with the caveat of like he had went through an ordeal to sort of try and heal his aunt who had gotten sick, and he was only partially successful, and so he was kind of driven to try and find like gems and a combination of stuff to sort of fully heal his aunt. So there might have been something going on there that he didn't know about that I'd be curious to know, but aside from that, like there, he's just a guy,
He's just a guy.
Just a guy. Which to be perfectly honest, I really enjoyed, as condescending as this is going to sound, I really enjoyed kind of the simplicity of Iruna, in that he wasn't a character that you had to kind of second guess or try to read between the lines with. When he wanted to do something, he did it. His motivations were generally very clear. He didn't try to disguise them or anything like that. It was always, this is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. This is what I'm going to do. And it was a really refreshing character to see, especially since I had spent like a lot of my RPG experiences in running D&D Adventures League games at conventions. And the Adventures League in and of itself is kind of built to have hidden agendas and stuff like that, with a faction system that they threw away, but was really awesome. And most of the games that I've run and played in, like, every character has secrets in their backstory that the other players don't know about, and has secret motivations for doing things. And so it was really refreshing to have a not secretive character. Like, you could ask Iruna anything and he would just tell you.
Pretty much, yeah. I really don't think there were any secrets he was keeping from anyone. His flaw at the beginning, and that was listed in his character sheet, was honesty. It was a little tricky to do, and I tried to stay true to, but it kind of evolved over time into just like a combination of bluntness and lack of tact in saying things, which most of the time means you're honest, but he eventually learned that maybe divulging your plan to the bad guy, if asked, is not always the wisest move.
What were everyone's flaws?
Socially awkward and absent-minded.
I think there was something about zealous. It was basically like a not religious zealous thing, but it was specifically using something like that, but towards science and learning.
I believe the actual flaw in Open Legend was zealous or something like that.
Yeah.
But we specifically meant it towards science.
It was a matter of like, I can't not know. I have to write the notes. It was a compulsion.
Zolta was proud and ambitious.
You don't say.
Yes. I really leaned into her flaws, I would say.
It worked well. So,
we did have very diverse characters.
Yeah.
That was always really interesting. our reactions to both problems and just like different scenarios that we got in was always super amusing. Especially since the
Well-
majority of the time Cass was like,
Well, and I guess so. Again, running games for as long as I have, it's really important for most tables to have a little niche for each player that they kind of fit into. And with how long you guys were playing together, you guys didn't have just your own little niche. You had your own kind of little thought bubble where we could kind of predict how a lot of you guys would react to certain situations simply because, well, we always know that Kess is going to focus on the science and learning aspects of this. And we always know that, Arel is going to be about kind of human connections. Like we always joke about how Arel was just, wanting to, jump anything
Aurel
that had a
just
pulse.
wanted family.
But she
Aurel
really
just
was
wanted
like
love, and she didn't know how to get it.
Broke
when you
my
really
heart in that
boiled it
last
down,
thing.
at least as far as I saw it, and Shax, feel free to correct me, but Arel was all about human connections. And I think a lot of that had to do with, because I don't know how much of your backstory we ever got into, but her backstory, a lot of the connections that she had were severed over and over and over again by a lot of different situations. She lost her sister,
Sort of sister.
sister,
So,
yeah.
She lost her
You know
parents,
how
lost
how
both of
how
her
Cass,
parents.
how her parents weren't her parents. Well, Arel apparently, because I'm going to be 100% honest,
Apparent.
I forgot that part, and 100% it will show up in campaign 2.
Oh.
Wait, what will?
The thing about your true parentage, that 100% is going to be showing up in campaign 2. Don't know how, but it'll 100% show up in campaign 2, whether you play Cass in campaign 2 or not.
I was not intending to. I was going to let her actually have some time to herself.
There will be
But
Easter eggs as to
there
the
will-
last.
Oh yeah,
game.
100%. Anyone whose character does not return, I will get your permission before I do it. But I plan on the campaign 1 characters having influence over campaign 2 because you guys put a lot of work into them, and we don't want them to just disappear into nothingness. But Arel's backstory, she lost connections over and over and over again, and every time she found someone to be close with, they would take it away from her, a lot of times through none of her own fault. And so the idea of her kind of almost hyper fixating on forming very, very strong connections that she turned into love, and marriages and fiancé-ships and things like that, to me made perfect sense. And I don't think Shax and I ever spoke about it.
We
It
did.
just was a natural kind of evolution of the character that, to me, it's weird how well it worked. I guess is the best way to describe it, because I consider myself a decent writer, nowhere like not Kiri level or anything.
Shush
but
your face. Don't even.
I think I'm a
Yeah.
decent writer. I could not have written Arel and her growth. Like I just couldn't. And it worked so well, and it was, I believe, unintentional. It just happened. And when you look back at it and actually do character analysis and things like that of the character, she makes perfect sense. And I think it's a credit to Shax at just how good she was at inhabiting the character and really understanding her. But
I also got really fixated on the backstory because, again, I freaked out about this enough and like have talked this up. But Jody is absolute Elias.
Yeah.
Jody is
Whoa.
like absolutely amazing at both his storytelling and his writing. And he wrote my backstory because I was like, I don't know what to do. And he goes, well, how about this? And then he goes, well, I'll send you a backstory. And I was thinking, okay, like two paragraphs, 3 paragraphs. No, I got like a whole chapter of a book. And so that was sort of just like stuck in my head for months. And so what I would do is whenever I just sat still and thought about nothing, I would create more of the story. I have like 4 chapters written essentially for Arel, and it's sort of just been growing with her. And so even though we didn't talk about it, that's definitely kind of what I saw her doing as well.
very cool.
So yeah.
So, for you guys, what are the big questions you have about the campaign for me? I know Kiri actually put a question in chat.
There's been a few in chat.
There has
I
been
still
a few.
want to know why Zolta doesn't understand the concept of the Geneva Convention, but I don't think I'm going to have the answer to that.
Because Geneva doesn't exist in Hyrule.
I gave the logical answer.
What's the Hyrule Convention then? Shit.
There wasn't a World War II for Geneva to happen.
Remember, there was the whole like Ganondorf and like clearly anything
the thing
against torture probably didn't happen in our realms.
Yeah, the thing that caused the Geneva Convention was
I'm aware.
the Nazis losing World War II.
No, I know.
So I will say Zolta's propensity towards violence is not just because I myself am that way in the way I create my characters. We're trying with the next one to not be the murder hobo. We'll fail, probably.
You weren't even trying to be the murder hobo in Cthulhu, and you still managed to go insane.
No one else brought a gun to the party!
Wait, hold on. I think other people did, though.
They didn't! I asked.
No,
they
she was the
found
only
a
person
gun.
had a gun.
I brought a camera.
Yeah.
I was a priest.
You can still shoot
purposefully
and
did not increase my
like
wealth score.
Shit.
I had nothing.
And y'all rolled so bad.
Anyway.
Don, you're right. The Zolta story is a lot. And so the reason for Zolta's like obsession with power and propensity towards violence is absolutely because of those times in her life when she didn't have power, like to save her father and the other awful things that happened. She turned to
entropy.
Yeah.
Death power.
Yeah. So she turned towards
entitlement.
Entropic magic and things like that, specifically to have power over something and to feel like she had some kind of control. So, like, that's the entire motivation behind there. And yes, my librarian was packing a 45. I'm not saying the librarian didn't have reasons for that either.
So, I guess I'll start with Kiri's question.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward again so I can use the exact
phraseology. Who was the motherfucker in the
the hand guy.
The shadow circle, the hand,
Mm-hmm.
That I got to threaten. Because in my headcanon, that threat just worked.
It did. That particular character, I realize this is a dick move, but that character is probably going to show up in campaign 2 because we didn't. One of my favorite stories in the world that I don't know if it's a real story or not, but I read it on like r/D&D or something, but it's basically this group of players get a plot hook of there's a necromancer in a local graveyard that's causing trouble. We want you guys to go do it. And they're like, we're going to screw with the DM. No, we're not going to do that. And they decide to go in a completely different direction. They end up opening their own business, and they run this like 2.5 or 3 year long campaign where they just create an economic empire using D&D to do it. And it's a really cool campaign. And at the end of the campaign, this massively powerful Archlich with a massive army of undead with Dracoliches and all these other things come and wipe out the town that their base of operations is located in. They go, how the hell did we not realize that? It's like, well, you guys did. Remember at the beginning of the campaign, the necromancer that you guys never stopped? Well, because you never stopped him, nobody went and stopped him. And so he just got more powerful and more powerful. And eventually he enacted his plan when no one stopped him. And I like that idea for D&D and the idea that you don't have to go with any of my plot hooks ever. But the world doesn't only exist where you guys are, where your characters are. The rest of the world still exists, and the rest of the world still goes on whether you guys do anything or not. And so the character that you guys dealt with, I can say it has some ties to Arel and her backstory that Chax is not aware of because I wrote those parts for her. And there's a good chance that it might show up in campaign 2. So I don't want to give too much away, because if it works the
Now
way
that
I
you
want
said
it
that,
to,
I have a feeling.
if it works the way I want it to, it'll be a really, really cool kind of plot point for you guys to deal with in campaign 2. But is there anything specific that because just what was he is a very broad good. Are there specific things that you want to ask about that character specifically? I'll try and give you as much information as I can.
I mean, I guess it was like how I wanted to know specifically, like how the hell, because I assume Evil Link is what did that to him.
Actually, wasn't he
okay.
He was not related to
Dawn.
Brayak at all.
The Shadow Dude at all?
It was something I was exploring, is the idea of when you have like an ultimate evil, everyone will focus on the ultimate evil. And a lot of smaller evils can do things and no one will worry about them because they're like, well, yeah, I mean, that's happening, but what about this? And there was Calamity Ganon and everything. So a lot of smaller evils could thrive. That's where, what was his name? The manager, I think is, that's how he was able to thrive. That whole Thieves Guild and everything like that couldn't have existed if it wasn't for the fact that everyone was terrified of the Guardians that were a few miles away, and Calamity Ganon and all that stuff. So yeah, no, he was unrelated. And if you guys had gone through that, that would have added another little side story for you guys to deal with. But it was unrelated to Brayak.
There were a few of those towards the end where
Mhm.
you had kept dropping hints that as soon as we dealt with a third wound, like would be like that point of no return, like not locked into the end game. And so that's why, like, I think Aruna was just like, is there anything else we feel like we need to do beforehand? Because there's a few other things that maybe we should think about addressing. Which is why, like, I don't think he pursued that because we ended up making like a kind of deal with him.
Mhm.
But like Arel's sister was pretty left open ended. And
Wasn't actually her sister.
there was one other thing. Yeah, I know that now.
Yeah. I do my best to come up, like I will generally try and put a bunch of different kind of like plot hooks into my games, so that the players have a lot of choice as far as where they want to go. Because I never want people to feel like they're being kind of forced to tell my story. And so that was one thing that, had things gone differently and you guys had decided to pursue that and it had become a big deal, that might have been part of the final conflict, where it might have turned into, instead of just fighting Brayak, you guys might have had to deal with this shadow entity thing, and dealing with how they interact. And it might have been, Brayak might have been an ally in the final fight, you know, depending on how things went.
So
I'm always trying to give you guys as many choices as I can.
So like as soon as Arel had her intro, or her she came in for the first time and there was the last rift that was there. If that had been sealed, we would have ended. Ta-da.
Kinda, yeah.
We literally just walked away from it. Well, Aruna got dragged away by wolves, but
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Ba-da-ba-da.
Oh yeah, I
Yep.
remember that.
Yep.
Oops.
Oh, that was our skills challenge too.
I gotta
Um,
track him using life energy. That was great.
You did. So ignore me. I need coffee.
No.
So did you have any other questions about that particular character, Kikikiri? Again, if you ask specifics, I can probably
I don't know
answer
what
some of them.
specifics to really ask.
What color is their hair?
They don't have any hair. They're
Do they
they're
have any
100% bald.
scars?
They did it. They had hair at one point. And I guess I
Relatable.
can reveal this. You you guys met them before they turned into that creature.
Everyone did?
All of you did, yes.
To the creature?
Well,
Any
you guys only
connection to
you only
the
found his
Yiga?
hand.
Oh well, he was the orgy guy.
Is he- I was gonna say, was he the dude from that orgy?
Yeah, we figured that out.
The orgy guy, it was just his hand.
But honestly, I think only maybe Arel and Pierre met him at that point.
We were the only ones to technically really meet them. You guys all fought them when I wasn't
Yeah.
there.
Well, I don't know if we fought that guy or it might have been a very different battle. We
I
fought
don't
kind
know.
He didn't fight. No. He
Or did
at
he
that
just like
point
dip at that point?
at that point in his life he was not an extremely powerful character, a combat focused character. He was a hyper manipulator. He didn't discover his power until after dealing with Arel.
That wasn't a ton between those 2 points.
No,
It's like a month in game time, maybe.
weird
Yeah, I
things
told you
happen
we
in the
should have
Shadow Realm.
experimented with the light.
So what
Killed himself though.
did we all meet him before that, or was that what you were talking about?
I don't know.
At one point, I was flirting with the idea that the manager
Earlier.
was going to be one and the same of that character. Because that particular character, I really enjoyed. Just because it's something that a lot of people don't realize. Truly powerful people exist in the world, and they are terrifying to deal with. And I've dealt with them a few times in situations that I won't describe. But the weirdest thing about dealing with someone that has actual power, not like, guns or anything, but actual like authority and the ability to kind of control a lot of people, is standing in a room with them is overwhelming. They exude this presence of kind of control and submission. And it's the weirdest experience you will ever have in your life. Yeah, I can see I can see the wheels turning, Jax. But yeah, so I really liked, building a character that particular character, he had no superpowers. He had no magic fighting style. He was just in control, and he knew how to get things done.
I mean, I think
And-
the reason we went to that camp was to go find the alternate version of the manager and probably just try to kill him so that he would die in Arel's realm and we wouldn't have to worry about like her owing him anything.
I mean, that was Zolta's plan.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And a lot of the characters kind of evolve as things happen. Because again, I'm very focused on your guys' choices mattering. And so a lot of times I will have an idea for a character and then you guys make a choice and like, well, that destroys that idea, but it inspires this, this, and this, and this. So, yeah. So, other questions for weird things from the campaign
I
that you
think
guys
there-
always want to
There's
know?
lots of questions in chat.
There's
Mhm.
one
Are
that
there-
I
oh,
really
here, let
like
me-
from Dawn about I think because most of the people here have either GM'd or at some capacity. Did that change how you play your character, or does it impact what you're planning for next campaign? Which I think for me, like, I started doing even more GMing when I came home from New Jersey. Once I moved home, I was able to do a lot more GMing, and I feel like that kind of level of storytelling has, I think, made me think a little bit more about what I want to do for the next game and be better as a player of just like doing more descriptive role playing and like being a little bit more responsive, or it's just like, instead of, oh, I tell everyone this, trying to remember, be like telling them in character, that kind of stuff. I think for me has always been something that I've really appreciated about doing more RPG stuff aside from Realms.
What else? I think I know Elias DMs Kiri, have you DM before? I know things happening behind the scenes right now that we may or may not
Yes, I
want to talk
have.
about.
I was
Okay.
just, yeah.
So does that has your time behind the GM screen changed how you play your character, specifically
I
Realms?
mean,
But
not specifically GMing. I mean, I feel like coming from a storyteller perspective as an author. I hate myself for saying that.
Yeah. How dare
no.
you be
Hey.
so good at writing?
Oh no! Wow, Kiri, you're an author. Where can we find
Stop.
your book?
Please stop.
What is the
Please-
name of your book?
Please
How
It's a
can
book,
we
it's right
purchase
there.
it?
Please,
What
no,
do you mean,
shush.
book? There's more than one.
Oh my gosh.
And they
We
are
will hype
fantastic.
you up
Highly
because
recommend you read them.
Guys, Kiri's very talented and we love her.
They're available at Barnes and Nobles and other retailers.
Everyone's
Hi,
talented.
when they
Kiri,
go
what-
Kiri here. Kiri's website.
She's not home.
We love you, Kiri.
Doesn't exist. You just, I don't know. I feel like in general, you just kind of, you can't ignore the idea of like, well, regardless what I want to play or what I make, how is this going to affect the overall story? And is it going to bring in an aspect that adds or takes away? And I think that's one way that it's like impossible not to meta just a little bit. Just
Do you
be
feel
like,
like you're
oh,
using the same techniques as a writer into creating your generating your characters as a whole, or like envisioning what your arcs
kinda.
are?
I try not to, but I think it's like just inevitable that that's the way my brain works. Like, oh, I see a hole in what we need to do X with the story. Is there a way I can try and make this character fit that, even if that wasn't the initial idea? I don't know. That's
And
my
it
brain
worked
thoughts.
well. We told a very interesting story over
We did.
5.5 years.
I only started DMing after Realm started. In fact, somewhere in the VODs is my first ever DM experience with most of everyone here.
Yeah, because that was like within the first year, I believe.
Yeah, the first time Jody couldn't make.
That's when you made me be married to Pierre.
That's
You're welcome.
I remember that.
Because it was a canon game. It was like a low key canon dream
It was
one
not-
shot.
It was a
If you
dream.
ask
You
Jody-
woke up in other bodies.
But I tried to sprinkle in references as much as possible. That may or may not be the conclusion of that little series next week.
Oh,
But yeah. So I don't think and I've done it a lot since then. I have a home game I DM now, but I don't think having experience as a DM has affected like any character choices. I mean, it definitely didn't at the beginning because I didn't have any, but going through the campaign and even thinking about campaign 2 now, I think the only thing it really affects is I'm hesitant to be the first one to like declare or say in the group like who or what my character will be, because I want to make sure like it's not the same exact personality or the same exact like type of character as someone else. Even though, you know, that could be okay depending on what, you know, that personality or what those traits are. For some things, I think it doesn't work as well. And so that's why I sort of hang back a little bit. Whereas campaign 1, I think I was the first character to be revealed just because we needed to get the ball rolling. And I figured Aruna was a safe choice.
Mhm.
To roll the ball, yes.
Yeah. Most of like the meta things I think about or that have gone to actually affect the game has been from a show producer perspective, instead of a GM perspective, of just like making sure that whatever's happening in game or with the show in general is entertaining enough or not so far off the rails to where people aren't enjoying what they're watching, and then trying to maybe nudge or steer from there a little bit. But yeah, I don't know.
Very interesting.
I still try to just sort of live in the moment when I play a character, and I trust Jody enough to GM. I'm never going to try to backseat GM.
Hi, Sophie.
Sophie.
I mean, that does, it's because this has been a conversation that I've seen in the kind of greater RPG space. I think all of us have played offline games. Does streaming a game change things for you guys? Do you play differently on stream than you do at home?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
It's more cursing offline.
On the, I mean, granted, you know, one of the things that you said at the very beginning of episodes for a while was, reminder, we're on the internet. This lives on forever.
Oh yeah, I forgot I used to give that warning.
And I do give them on some of the one shots when we bring guests on. But for us at home, my home games, there's a little bit more some side talk. We get into some other tangents and stuff like that, but we also have a lot of inside jokes about things that don't necessarily make sense on a live show, because you're looking at an audience that maybe are checking it out for the first time. There's also,
Realms had no inside jokes. Wait,
None.
not at the beginning.
Oh my god, I have a story that's related after this.
The other thing for me is I'm a very immersive GM. Those who watched or were in the Cthulhu game last week will know that I'm, if it's not obvious by everything about me, I can be kind of the most sometimes.
No,
I would say the
you-
most.
Yeah, because
most of the time.
Yes. I mean, I did make a intro sequence for Cthulhu.
Yeah, short story was Lex going to everyone in that game and being like, hey, can you take a 1920s era picture and send it to me so I can make an intro?
And I could have made it more extra, but I ran out of time. So, but like, I have music playing throughout all the games that I'm in or run. I did a Christmas Carol one-shot over the holidays that was so deeply musically timed with like different motifs and stuff like that to fill that space. Whereas in live play or in stuff like this, when we're streaming and it's all remote, it's a little harder to do that kind of stuff. And it's stuff that I'm learning about, like, what's the best way to handle this stuff and this stuff in an online sort of way. So for me, when I run games, I try to be very immersive with it, because I really like that. For me and for my players, they really vibe that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of that for the most part. And also, sometimes my ADHD neurodivergent brain in the mornings for these shows are just like, I'm trying to keep my focus.
I think that for me, playing in person, so the in-person games that I've been in have been like who've been friends with me for a long time, so we already have like our own inside jokes as friends that we kind of find some way to incorporate that into the games, but also having people there to like interact with, as you guys know, is a completely different experience than when you're doing something on stream or on the internet. And I think that if I hadn't been a streamer and had come into this, there would have been a completely different dynamic, because you present yourself online, because we are online, completely different than what you do at 11 o'clock at night with your friends.
Only because it's 11 in the morning.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mostly because it's the morning. But so there's a lot more razzing that happened in person, especially of the DM or the GM, that we don't really do, and you can sort of, or that we didn't really do with Realms. But there's also like the fact that we are online, and so like if we talk over each other, the audio cuts out, or we have to like wait and have everyone like stop talking in order to get an idea out. Kind of for me, it felt like it broke up some of our role-playing experiences. And like ideas had to be dropped that would have continued in like an in-person thing, because you can also have side conversations and have more of those like whispered, not allowed to the whole group. It's only for, oh, I'm with Aruna and Pierre, so I'm gonna go over here and huddle and tell them XYZ, and then we can like surprise Kess and Zolta. Versus being online, it's like, all right, well, we're all here and they're talking, so the players know that we're gonna surprise them, but so yeah, it's very different playing online. But on the same token, I get to play with you guys, and you guys aren't near me, and you guys are like super cool, and I love your storytelling and your personalities. And I know I've said this millions of times, but it makes me so happy to see everyone every Saturday morning, or that we played. Like, it just, again, it made my week. So I'm always super excited to see you guys and be able to talk and interact. So to wrap it up, pros and cons to each, but yeah, it definitely is a different experience. Right, Floof?
Yeah. I mean, in many ways, I prefer online.
Scheduling is a lot easier.
Well, scheduling is easier, but also like joining Lex on neurodivergent brain sensory overload. If I get overloaded, goodbye.
Yeah, a lot of times
You guys
in the
don't
morning,
exist
it's
anymore,
just a lot of
right?
times in the morning, it's hard for me to keep my focus because I'm like I'm just waking up. My meds haven't fully kicked in yet.
Yeah. I get
People
distracted
also-
by other people getting distracted in person. So when other people are like on their phone and eating snacks, if we take a break to all eat, that's one thing. But like the side conversations, because my brain just listens to all of them at the same time, it becomes too much. But here I can fidget on my phone if I need to have that moment, and it's off screen, so it's not distracting anyone else. And
people are also very draining in person.
yes.
And so
I'm sitting right here.
Wow.
As much as it might not seem it, I am very much an introvert. Like the pandemic didn't cause me to have extra depression. One, already had it. Two, I was like, hey, I'm just alone in my room with my monitors. I'm good. Like that wasn't a thing for me. But the big difference for me is actually with character creation. I love stat blocks to the point that my very first tabletop role-playing game was the monster manual for the Buffy the Vampire Slayer role-playing game.
That
and
sounds accurate.
I
That
copied
tracks.
every single stat block into 2 giant notebooks, and I thought through them. And like, I didn't even know what tabletop role-playing games were when I got that book. It was a Buffy book, and I wanted it, and was like thinking through all of those things. So I like stat blocks is usually where I start with my characters. And when I play in person, I can develop the backstory and all of that stuff through the gameplay, but there needs to be more of that done on the front end for a streamed game.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Hope that answers your question, Don.
Yeah. Are there other questions? If people are seeing a question, there's a question from, I think it's I don't want to mispronounce this. Chakes Mikes. For Ilea. In Zulta's teaser, she mentions her mom. Can you explain that part?
Yeah, so that was over 5.5 years ago that I recorded that. But
don't worry, I haven't had to watch the videos like 20 times in order to get your clothing details. I know
Jax does
all of
awesome
those
fan
videos.
art, and it makes me so happy because I love fan art. Yeah, like that was one of my goals for a year, was to get fan art of one of my characters, and I got it for 2 different things, and Jax was one of them, so I was very happy.
Oh, you
that.
should have told me. I would have drawn like an actual one like I do with my other characters.
Fan art and
You
fan
guys have
fiction,
seen those.
It makes me so happy. Yeah. But the mom, so her dad died.
What?
I know, right? In an accident. We'll determine if that was really an accident or not. And then the bad stuff was happening to Zolta, and so she was learning entropic abilities kind of on her own, and her mom discovered her doing that. And because Zora were blamed, much like Yiga, like the River Zora were blamed for being evil and joining Ganon, there was a big concern on her mom's part about Cat. Zolta
Being
becoming
crazy
evil
over there.
and like joining with Ganon and becoming River Zora because she's learning these abilities, even though that's not why Zolta was learning it, and it was a big blowout, and basically became a "you can't do this under my roof," and Zolta ended up leaving the entire Zora nation as a result of that, and then was on the run, being accused of being a River Zora. So that's something about her mom and why she doesn't want to return despite the bounty hunter. And they're probably going to have to do family therapy at some point.
Like you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Everyone
think
should go to therapy
you should.
anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think
If you can afford
people
it.
realize, like in the because I can't remember if we mentioned this in the first episode, but the shadow stalkers that found Kess in the first episode were tracking Zulta. Like Zulta led them directly to Kess in the first episode
Oops.
and was able to kind of ditch them, and that was actually
But
kind
they
of a
brought
moral
us
quandary.
together.
They did. And I killed one of them in our world, and that made him a mummy in another, which was great.
Yeah.
Thanks for
so
the wife, Shadow Stalkers.
I think that I think I brought this up or asked this whenever it happened, but was there a special circumstance as to why Zolta's dad had died in her realm but was totally fine in the other one?
You did ask that.
Yeah, and the true answer of that was
That you forgot that was a rule.
no, it was the idea that I wanted to have I wanted to surprise Aelia, to be blunt. I wanted to put her in a situation she wouldn't expect. And
Which is
having her
hard.
character's father
The answer is
there
trauma.
and her mother not be there created that. The actual
Zolta
in-game
is special is the answer.
the actual in-game universe reason for why it happened was the blade that actually killed the other Zoltas had some bleed out effects, and Brayak had some stuff that he did in there that caused that particular thing to basically, instead of one life being inexorably linked to another, effectively their lives were so intertwined that they could effectively trade lives.
Trade off,
yeah.
We confuse the universe.
Her parents' love was 100% true and solid, and love conquers all. And it was just a more interesting story, to be blunt.
I need to go throw up.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Gross.
One thing we never do, like everyone got a magic item as part of their character. Like Pierre's was his
Was
knives
mine
and
the
his accordion.
that like would
Yeah.
like have like the Riddick knives or something like that?
Cass's was her hook shot. Arel's was her stabby bits. Blast basher for Aruna. Zulta in the entire game
I used it once.
used her magic item
Necklace.
once. And what it was is a necklace that her father's spirit inhabited and would form a protective shell when she was in danger. Because her father, despite the fact that he was gone, was not willing to leave his daughter without any protection. And so it was a really cool item that never showed up in the game. 5.5 years. It happened once by accident.
I'm working on things. Like I said, I like stat blocks, and like fighting is something I love. I struggle with the like character side and the being vulnerable side because I just do as a person in regular life. So I'm working on those things to being better about it. Again, therapy for Zolta, therapy should be a thing for Aelia too.
Therapy should be a thing for everyone.
Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah, therapy's wonderful.
Everyone should be
Classy
fine.
Don asks, Jody, what happens if the party did TPK? What were your thoughts about implications for the world? So, as you guys found out in the finale, your existence was one of the things that was keeping the realms existing. So I had quite a few different thoughts about what would happen if there was ever a TPK. And a lot of it had to do with effectively what happened when you guys tried to forcibly use the Trifork to create a rift, which is basically you guys would kind of be shut off into limbo, and you would have
Again?
to kind of learn how to figure out what to do about that. And it might have turned into, well, your characters were just banished into limbo for forever, and we would have to come up with new characters. But it was a TPK for me is never okay. Well, congratulations, campaign's over. For me, a TPK just means okay, now we have a different story to tell. So yeah, I think Don mentioned earlier in the chat, like the stat block we built for his character had, I think, something like 150 hit points, and 7 actions every turn in addition to his turn. And as you guys saw, if he attacked every single time he had an action, he would have TPK'd the party easily. Like he had advantage 7 on every attack roll. He was super, super powerful.
Tell me why my initial reaction to reading when the first time he posted that question was Zolta could have taken him.
Yeah.
Why?
But the the idea of what would happen.
Hubris? Let's see. What did you say your flaws were?
Pride and ambition.
Ego.
There's your answer. That's why your first thought was that.
Yeah.
Arel tried to take him. He wasn't into it.
In many ways.
Damn.
Girl.
That's crazy.
Coffee was
So-
picked.
Great
Yeah,
distraction technique.
if he had killed all of you guys,
We would have got the bad ending.
effectively, his plan was never going to work. Sorry to dump this on you now, Don, but his plan was never going to work. He was not powerful enough to remerge the realms, and
Well, he
so
was
if
never
you
going to
guys-
find Link, so
Yeah. So if you guys hadn't beat him, the realms would have continued to fracture and things like that. And as I've mentioned a few times before, I stopped coming up with solutions to problems when I created problems for you guys, because it just wasn't worth the effort I would put into it, because you guys would always come up with a much better solution for most of my problems.
Yes, but with the power of friendship.
So generally, all I had to do is come up with interesting problems for you guys to solve, and then just go, okay, I've no idea how this will get fixed, and let you guys go to town, because you always come up with something unique and fun. So yeah, that would have been something that I would have, we'll do it live. It would have been, you guys watch as the realms around you start to shatter. And I think I probably would have played around a little bit more with, because again, you guys are the reasons the realms existed, or continued to exist as stable as they were for as long as they did. So removing you instantly, I don't think your characters could have instantly just disappeared. So yeah, I don't have like a really good, like, this is what would have happened. It would have been, well, I would present this problem to the players, and then they would find a way to break the game, because that's what they do. Which is not a bad thing.
100% have been dominated by Arel like 2 or 3 times with the amount of legend points that I had. Like, yeah, you weren't going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I had.
And yeah, let's have
And then you
everyone
would have been
say that
trapped in that
I
loop.
was hoarding legend points.
Yeah.
You
Look,
were.
Just because someone else was also doing it doesn't mean you
she
weren't.
was more effective at it.
I was.
Yeah, and she didn't need to constantly be like, I have so many legend points, I'm almost at my goal.
I never said I have so many legend points. I said I need this many to hit my goal.
See,
That's
the
all.
the secret to getting legend points was to make things either so awkward or like have such a hidden sexual innuendo that Jody would just break and start
Yeah.
laughing.
Yeah,
is
that's
fair.
what it is.
I did.
Hey.
Yeah.
I will also say me making those comments about legend points, I think directly impacted other people getting legend points.
Yeah. I know.
It's still
Imp
a
a
net
few
positive.
times gave everyone else legend points just to spite you.
Yeah.
And
And while that might hurt me, it helped the game. So
well, and something like I didn't realize this when we were building a rel, but a rel, because here's another fun fact: the Shadow Realm was not caused by the fracturing of the realms, and the Shadow Realm still exists after the realms were merged again. So a rel actually gave me a lot of outs for if bad things happened, because she had a connection to something that Brayak had no control over and didn't actually know existed that much. Like he knew that you had shadow powers and that you were powerful and useful, but he didn't understand the extent of the Shadow Realm because his power is limited to the light world.
So
could
he would have
like,
been
track us
taken
mo-
into the Shadow Realm,
realm?
and then I could have let him go. Find that one out for me.
Shadow
Which I
Hollow.
100% was going to bring back.
That
the
would have been
boss fight.
awesome.
I was going
Yeah.
to.
I was thinking about that, Lionel. Like if So wait, so if Brayak he like had a line on us most of our time in the realms, right? I'm assuming, like was vaguely tracking us.
He was following you guys. Like he was whether
Oh
it
my
was
god, why
like
is he so obsessed with us?
my
Quick
God.
question for Dawn in chat. How did he react to the bakery explosion? Okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I imagine each like town he follows into is just like, did I really make the right call here?
He follows in the path of destruction. He doesn't have to keep tabs on us. He just finds where the fires are.
Yeah, he just looks for smoke on the horizon and goes, knows where they are. No, he had the ability to, I don't think we gave him any prescience abilities, but he had kind of a remote viewing thing just through the power of the Triforce to actually reference back to the old Legend of Zelda cartoon, where they would use the
Yeah.
Triforce to just like remote view everything.
Yeah. So then he
he followed you guys around when he had the time to do it. He was also manipulating other things, so he wasn't always tracking you guys, but you were easy to follow.
The times that we were in the Shadow Realm, we were just like, we disappeared from his radar, and he didn't know.
Well, the time that you were in the Shadow Realm, your bodies were still, was it Zulta's body?
It was only Pierre's body.
It was Pierre's body there.
Was still out, like in the physical realm.
Yeah, I touched him and went, "Don't do that."
Yeah.
So yeah, Pierre's body was still there. So he saw Pierre and then saw you guys, and he knows that Arel has shadow powers, and he knows that
You've been get or good.
Yeah, that she could go to some kind of in between place of shadows, but he had no knowledge of the Shadow Realm and its
because the first time we tried to use the Triforce to go between realms, we ended up in Limbo, and then from there physically went into the Shadow Realm for a brief period of time.
You worried him significantly because he lost you for a second, and he assumed it was just when you guys were in Limbo, is what he assumed. He again had no idea about the Shadow Realm. Also, the solution to that problem was not supposed to be the Shadow Realm,
What
and that was
the
another thing.
supposed to be?
There wasn't a solution. Bye, Jax. Apparently,
Oh no,
that was enough for her.
You offended her, and she's done. She's done with your nonsense.
I called the realm Nightcrawler and Jax left.
My layout. No.
How does it feel?
Who are we now?
Screaming.
I think we're still ourselves.
Are we?
Yeah, we had
Ilea and Kiri are. Elias and I are a mix of people.
and I'm still me.
Yeah, because you're a separate one. Because you're on the top, which means you're the
top
full
row is
screen.
safe, bottom row is chaotic.
Top row is safe. Ilea is safe. Kiri is safe. Elias and I are not.
All good.
But anyway, yeah, when we were getting close to the end, I messaged Don and said, "Hey, we got to have a conversation." And we kind of built the rest of the story, and I filled him in on the stuff that he didn't know his character was doing.
You mean to tell me to watch every single episode of Realms of the
How
Wild?
dare you, Don?
Don, what the fuck?
He watched a fair amount of them, but I wasn't about to make him watch 5.5 years of stuff. So yeah, we
Why
sat him down and we
I'm starting
have.
to doubt your commitment to Sparkle Motion.
but yeah, when we sat down and we started really figuring out like the character itself, I had a good idea of what I want, where I wanted the character to be, but it was really the conversation with Don where we started really kind of clarifying exactly what led him to where he was and why he was doing this. And yeah, it got there was a lot of stuff that we weren't able to bring up. Like, do you guys want to know how all your characters died?
Sure.
Yes.
No.
So
Yes.
we'll start chronologically as far as when he killed them. Aruna, yours was completely accidental. When
First
what
death.
happened?
Okay, now
What
I wanna
happened
know.
during the fight with Ganon? Ganon's about to give the final blow. Kitty fight.
Was this in his realm or mine? Or
This is in Power Realm.
This was
Uh,
the kitty fight.
Ganon's about to do the final blow. Zelda steps in, takes the blow for him, and dies. And Brayak is just overwhelmed with guilt and fear that the energy transfer staff activates, and he shoots across Hyrule as a bolt of lightning and happens to cross paths with Aruna's family that's fleeing from guardians and things like that, and just so happens to kill Aruna.
right after
accidentally.
I'm born.
Yeah, literally right after he was born. Because all three of them got hit by it, but because he was a newborn, he wasn't able to deal with lightning
strong.
being shot out of
His
his body.
shell hadn't hardened yet.
So
I feel
when
like if we
Broad
knew
birds
that
are
at the
weird.
time, he would have seemed a lot less scary. Like, dude.
well, what happens is when he realized he just murdered a kid, he freaks out and gets sent through his first rift, and goes through as lightning because again he hasn't quite learned to control it, and kills the Wisdom Realm Aruna in a very similar fashion. Freaks out again, but then when he gets to the Courage Realm,
Also
he's
a
able to
newborn.
stop himself, and he doesn't end up killing Aruna, and he kind of follows Aruna for a few years just to make sure, and that's when he realizes that, well, wait a minute, everyone else that died, they died in all three realms, but for whatever reason Aruna didn't, and that was kind of the genesis of what was going on. Cut to Pierre was next. Pierre was a scientific experiment. He's going, okay,
I was
100%, that's what it was.
There was
Huh?
great. This is great.
What it was he went, well, wait a minute, I have this power. And he tried closing the wounds himself, and he couldn't. There was just too much going on. And so he came across Pierre on his own, and the kind of courage and selflessness that Pierre had that we never really got to touch on. But the relationship that he had with his old team and everything, he was, a very kind of selfless leader style character. And it reminded him of Zelda, his Zelda, that embodied the Triforce of Courage. And so he went, this person would be a good member to help out this baby that I just killed twice. And so I went, well, I wonder how this works. And so he intentionally killed two versions of Pierre just to see if he could. And he chose Pierre specifically, again, because it
What a
reminded him
dick.
of Zelda, and went, well, no, this is exactly what I need.
I'm going to give this Birdman a baby.
And that was him slowly starting to kind of get rid of his morality of, this is for the greater good, and this person
The
needs to be able
justification
to help.
begins.
So that's where the justification comes. Next up, and this is the one that was probably the one that hurt the most for me, was Kess. And every one of you guys actually reminded him of one of his champions. And I'm trying to remember who Kess reminded him. It was the curiosity that got him with Kess's character. And something that he realized was because Kess
killed the Kestrel.
Well, Kess kept going to places that she shouldn't be and kept almost dying over and over again, that he realized if he basically set a trap in a location that was, secret enough that Kess would want to go there, he wouldn't actually have to kill her. She would technically kill herself through accident. And so what ended up happening is he went to each realm and he effectively planted a power bomb in there. And he watched Kess disappear in the Courage realm and go in, and the explosion happened. And he goes, well, maybe, it happened. I guess that's what we're going to do. And then he did it again in the Wisdom realm, and Kess went in, the explosion happened. And then he did the same thing in the Power realm, going, well, this is the most curious, maybe. And he got some cold feet at that point, and he actually went in and stopped the bomb before Kess got to the point where her little, I think she was like 2 or 3 years old when it happened.
Wait, why kill me in all 3 realms?
Well, he set them all up at the same time, and it was kind of a test to see if you were worthy enough. And he was figuring
at 2 or 3 years old, fuck off.
You were a hyper smart kid. And so yeah, it was this thing where he actually thought that you were smart enough that you weren't going to set off the bombs in any of them, and he would have to set them off himself. And when 2 of you died, he went in and saved the 3rd one. And that was part of his justification was, well, she was going to die anyways. Like the kid kept going places.
Those bombs didn't exist.
Yes, but this was the justification of if
Nor
those
would
bombs
they
hadn't
have
killed
logically
her,
existed in those temples.
she was going to
Fuck
go
that
somewhere
guy.
and get killed somewhere. So
With proper information, at least.
As an aside, right now, Chax is Elias, Elias is Lex, and Lex is Chax.
Yay! Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so not only did
And
my
your cheekbones
computer
are fabulous.
Thank you. Not only did my computer blue screen, but the internet went out in the area. So
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Lovely.
You broke your entire city. That's awesome.
I did. Yeah. It's great.
We're just talking about how Bryak murdered everyone.
Oh, yeah.
I think
So,
it's
yeah,
my turn next.
So yeah, with Bryak, with you, Kess, he had this kind of savior complex with you of, well, he saved her. And that was, again, started putting him on the down path. And then the final one was...
Oh, and then she saved him, and that goes really creepy.
Well, it gets worse with you. So...
I can
What
only
is
imagine.
Anyone surprised?
So...
It gets worse with you.
The situation with Jael happened in all 3 realms.
Uh-huh.
And... he effectively encouraged it in 2, and like he had personal meetings with Jael telling him, oh no, this is totally the right thing and she really does love you. And he gave Jael this sword in 2 of the 3 realms that was infused with the Triforce of Power, and basically said, when you've decided that she's ready, this sword will turn her into her final form effectively. And the sword was enchanted so that as soon as it was in the same room with Zulta, it would kill her.
When you decide she is ready.
Yeah. So, Jody.
It was super creepy. It was massively creepy.
I'm going to need just a one-on-one Roll20 game where you put up the stacked lot for Bryak. And Zulta just chooses what she's going to do. Okay.
See, the worst part about it was, again, this
PvP
is a
map.
conversation that Don and I had, where at that point, because this was happening in all three realms, in his mind, he was saving Zulta in one realm because she was going to be, abused in all three of these realms if Brayak did nothing. But by having her killed in these other two realms, he was basically euthanizing her. Basically, well, she was in such a bad situation, I'm just going to take her pain away.
Yeah, I still need that. Just
Yeah, I'll give you the stat box sometime.
thank you.
Like I said, the character himself was not a good person in any way, shape, or form. But we had to come up with a way that they could go from, because Link was a good person. And through trauma and a bunch of really bad choices, he molded himself into a bad person. And I'm not someone that likes to kind of put the justification of, well, bad things happened, and so he's you can't blame him for these. No, he made choices that caused him to go down this path, and Don and I talked about that.
He did have the best name.
Yeah,
As soon as you guys told me his name, it's been like stuck in my head. It's like, oh, the perfect character creation name. Like just it fits
Don is
so well.
brilliant.
I love it. Okay,
It
Don,
was
you're naming
really,
my
really
next
great.
character.
But
Don,
yeah,
you're such a character.
Don and I had I think it took us like 3 hours in a Discord call to fully flesh out the character and figure out what was going on. And yeah, it was like by the end of it, we're like, this is an absolutely horrendous character. And I'm like, yeah, it's supposed to be. Like, he's done horrible, disgusting things. And I was really happy that you guys were able to kind of give him kind of a redemption arc and kind of make him realize just what a horrible, disgusting person he had been. And if we were ever to continue that story, that would probably be his big moment of character growth, is having to learn to live with the person that he became and finding ways to kind of make up for all the horrible things that he did. Despite the fact that they've all disappeared at this point, he still has the memory of doing all of them. And that's always a really interesting, for me personally, I think that's one of the more interesting stories you can tell, is of because the bad guy turning into a good guy is a trope. Like, it happens all the time. But something that they don't really deal with is that bad guy having to deal with all the bad things that they did now that they are no longer a quote unquote bad guy. Like, that to me is a really interesting story. And it didn't have to happen that way. Like I told Don flat out, like, you should be to the point of almost irredeemable. But I know this party, and I know they're going to try to redeem you. So I don't want you to be in the position of not letting them try that and not letting them succeed if they do something well. But understand, he should be like 2 cents shy of irredeemable. Like, they should want to kill him. They should want to end him. And if they decide to save him or find another way to deal with this without him dying, that should be a very difficult thing for them to do. And I think it was. I think you guys really had to think outside the box and work really hard to do that.
We had to bring the Triforce from a different realm.
The Triforce
that was weird.
literally changed the game.
Therapy. Yeah.
Zolta had to not
Gave
hit
us
things.
an option that was not even on the table or a
Yeah.
thought before that, and we had to improvise.
Thanks for making it very clear that a Link had died right there.
So one of the things to sort of go off on a tangent, but also connect it back to that. So Shadow Arel was created after we went to the Shadow, or was altered, updated, upgraded, after we went into the Shadow Realm, and everyone saw like the hallucinations. And we were kind of interacting with those, and then they were kind of trying to kill us. But so Arel's final plan was to trap him in a hallucination so that we can manipulate him and do what we needed to. So he was basically just going to have to constantly make rolls against being in hallucinations. And again, when I had mentioned previously how I had scripts, I had like so many different scripts that if he was going to be trapped again, he'd be trapped into another scenario that he had created previously. And so he would just be constantly locked in a hallucination, demoralized, and then dominated when I couldn't get him demoralized.
Inception.
I was just gonna
Yep.
blow him up.
Yeah,
I mean, that would work
Zolta,
too.
Zolta really wanted to try and steal all of his power, but
Don't say.
she had grown as a person.
The cool
by
thing,
then.
and I'm a little upset that we never got to see Shadow because Chax and I, when she leveled up, I think the first or second time she leveled up, we had a conversation where she's like, "Well, I don't know what to do," and we kind of tossed around a few ideas, and I think you might have asked for what's alternate form.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh, well, it lets you do all these, different things, and there's a lot of different ways you can do it." And we created Shadow Arel effectively. The original version of Shadow Arel was she could replace somebody's shadow and completely dominate them and basically take control of an enemy.
Kind of like
but-
what happened with Jael.
Yeah. And the limitation on that power was they had to have a shadow that she could replace. And so I specifically wrote that there were no shadows because Brayak would have been aware of that ability because he's been watching you guys.
But
we
then
ever
we
made
didn't
leveled
realize-
up,
I didn't
and we
realize
put
that when
everything
she
into
leveled up.
alteration and creation,
Yeah.
so
I
I,
didn't
could
realize
make
when
shadows.
Arel, when Chax leveled up Shadow Arel, I hadn't looked at her Shadow Arel character sheet, so I had no idea she'd kind of changed Shadow Arel completely. Like Shadow Arel could still work the way that we had designed it, but she'd added a lot more utility to it that I didn't know she did.
And again, that came from our interaction in the Shadow Realm. So I was like, well, this is such a cool experience. Like, I wish Arel could wait.
I think it's one of the things that Open Legend does better than I think any RPG in the market right now is just if you have a weird, crazy idea, you can do it in Open Legend. So yeah. Do we have other questions? I thought I saw another question in chat, but
We have a question from hang on, where is it? It's from Imp in my head. What happened to Fred post campaign 1?
Fred?
he
The question everyone asks.
so there was a
Yeah.
character that effectively the Thieves Guild took a hostage.
He was a little
And-
puppy. He was just so happy. He wanted friends and to be around us, and even Arel got sick of him.
The only reason Zolta didn't try and kill him is because
I
he was
here for
annoying
this?
Aruna.
No, you weren't.
That's why I don't know.
Yeah, basically, he was put in there to put to basically make it so you guys couldn't just walk away. And
And yet,
Yeah.
and
We tried.
I had this brilliant idea to make him the most annoying character I've ever created. And yeah, you guys just gravitated to him for a little bit. But what happened afterwards? He found some real friends that weren't part of the Thieves Guild. Eventually met a girl who's almost as clingy as he was, and
God,
they settled down, had a couple kids,
And then we reset the worlds.
and then we reset the world. And
That's right, because we
Damn.
took out. Oh,
to
we
be
took out
fair, I
Riversal
don't
City.
think we're
Ouch.
thinking about Fred at
That's
all.
upsetting.
Damn.
So that
I
was
didn't
So
know who he was,
he-
so that's rough, buddy.
so he
He's
no
alive
longer
somewhere.
married. But his wife still exists. They may meet up again.
That'll be
Hey.
another encounter for our next story.
Yeah, he'll show up in Camp Fate 2. And we'll you know what'd be really great is he shows up in campaign 2 and one of your new characters just falls for him, and that's the love story.
Mm,
No.
I keep imagining that campaign 2 is going to be set like 30, 35 years into the future. And so we can deal with our characters that are older and just sort of see how they've changed. So I keep imagining, now I'm imagining like a 50-year-old Fred meeting like a 50-year-old Arel. Like,
He's
Part-
mellowed out
part of
by
me-
then, maybe.
Part of me
How you
thinks that
been?
Arel just doesn't age anymore.
Yeah,
Like
I-
Arel will just be eternally Arel.
you know what? And
Accurate.
that's sort of, I was thinking if I bring her into the next one, maybe something in the Shadow Realm could have happened where she just exists. Like she's
We-
no longer.
When you guys went to the Shadow Realm, you guys found out that time doesn't pass the same way,
Right.
which is why, again, the person that you met at the orgy and then the person that the mysterious being were very, very different. Yep.
Was it actually an orgy? 'Cause
No.
we referred to that, but like I came in after it became like an ambush, so I was like, everyone keeps calling this an orgy. Did y'all
think it's,
actually go to an orgy?
So
was
it started off where
Advertised as an orgy.
it was just like, well, we have this party and there's drinks and Pierre and Arel, you
It
should
was-
go. And Arel's like, hey now, come on,
happened-
Pierre.
This happened when I was back in California because I remember having this like big scene, and I was just like over there where a desk used to be, like that's now my closet in the studio.
It was a very hedonistic expression, but I wouldn't go as far as to call it an orgy. It was
No.
all about what feels good. So
It
there
was
was
about-
drinking, there was
it-
dancing, there was romance, but there wasn't like, you know,
There was
people weren't
poisoning.
screwing.
It was just
They
a bit
tried to like
bacchanal.
put us to sleep.
yeah. It was-
So
Bacchanal is an orgy.
honest,
I said a bit bacchanal.
It was meant to be just a giant release for all of the Yiga clan members.
Somehow sounding worse.
But
Yeah.
there
I'm
wasn't
thinking-
actual fornication going on. Everything up to though.
I'm thinking about
Okay.
how the Dionysian festivals would end with like murder. That's in my head for this.
that's how they tried.
They just skipped over the sex.
It was, yeah, so it was, you know, it was meant to be just a
Not for one
really,
of
really
trying.
good time without any sort of inhibitions. And that's why there was a lot of drinking, and there was other stuff that you guys didn't partake in that was meant to lower inhibitions as well. But no, it wasn't.
Did
an
you have to
actual orgy.
lower or else?
No, that was why you didn't partake in any of them. But
Hey.
Damn. I'm just excited for that for campaign 2 because I mentioned it in chat. There was a bunch that I missed because all of the first campaign was kind of happening while I was in retail land. And it made things very difficult when we switched to in the pandemic where I had to start working on the weekends and I lost a lot of access to being able to do the show, which was annoying.
I mean, that was,
It's what happens, but
yeah. I mean, it's retail.
but when I moved home, and since then I've been able to basically be able to be here for every show, with the exception of the ones that are like I'm exhausted in a week. And so I'm excited for campaign 2 to actually be able to be here for like almost the entire time.
So I do want to say on that regards, it really sucks not having you and Kiri there a lot because you guys were super busy and awesome. And sorry, retail not so awesome, but still, because there wasn't. I'm sorry, this is really like mean to say, but because there wasn't enough characters to run it, Jody invited me.
Well, I was about to say, like, the entire motivation of getting checks.
But I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad.
I mean,
Yeah, no,
glad
I
to
mean,
have
it
you
was
guys
good.
back.
Like,
was it our? I mean, I think it led to even more iconic moments. So you know what? I'm not.
Thank
sorry
you,
about
shitty
that.
schedule, because
yeah.
it
I
brought
mean, when we
someone invaluable into our ranks. So
Someone who,
thank you, shitty schedule.
made
That's what I'm
great
gonna say.
Moments for everything.
well, the funny thing is when we were first getting people to kind of commit to the show, Kiri was the one that flat out told us, she's like, you know, I'm really busy and I have all these things, and we were all passionate enough about wanting to work with Kiri that we're like, we will work around your schedule. And the reason we have 4 players and not 3 players is I can run a game for 3 players. So if you can't show up, we'll your character will just be silent for 2 hours, and we'll do that. And the funny thing was, it started off with Kiri making every single episode for like 4 or 5 months. And then again, because unfortunately for us, Curie is incredibly successful and awesome. She started missing every so often, but then all the stuff happened with Lex. And it actually became Curie was there more often than Lex. And we thought that was the funniest thing in the world because Lex is a producer on the show. And so we just thought it was funny that the flake that we were expecting to not be showing up every so often was more reliable.
It became
Not
a thing
flake,
of
I just
people saying that
think
Lex
of the
and
right
I
word.
was
Curie
gonna
were the same
say,
person.
hang on with that language.
The super
right
busy
there.
person that we were expecting
The
to have
flake,
scheduling
hang on.
conflicts.
I also want to be clear, my laugh was not at Curie being highly successful. It was at Curie's face at being called highly successful.
I'm so sad
Laughing
I'm on my
against.
phone and I can't see you guys. I can only see whoever's talking. Do you guys know how to change that?
If you swipe
Yeah,
to the
there should
right,
be something up in it's view. There's gallery or speaker.
I
Yeah.
know normally, but not on my phone, and maybe it's because it's vertical.
I think if you swipe to the right, you can go to gallery.
Now, can you
Bring
see
it
us?
back now, y'all.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So,
I'm a pretty lady.
so yeah, it was like when I pitched this to Chax, like in our first conversation, I said, hey, you know, I went to Chax specifically because we knew each other through Twitch Sings. And I had a good feeling that I just thought that she would fit into the group really well. But I told her flat out, I said, as much as yes, we want you to be good at role playing and things like that, our primary motivator is we need someone that can show up. And so we
I can
told
do
her-
that.
We told her flat out at the beginning, yeah, everyone else auditioned to see how well they work together. Like you're schedule based. And you know,
the funny
Chax
thing,
is
I was okay
amazing.
with that.
and the funny thing too is that like I remember because I knew we were adding you to the show, and I think my very first session with you, at the end, I'm like, yeah, she's gonna fit right in with our chaos. This is good. This is good for us. I'm happy for us in this moment. And then it led to some of the most iconic things. So like I'm very happy that you have joined us on this crazy ride, and I'm very happy that everything worked out the way it did. But I'm also now just excited to be able to be around more often.
Hmm.
Unless I end up doing shows that have 2 doshés, because my local theater apparently is bringing that back.
What I mean,
No.
I think we can all safely say that without Arel, like this would have been a very, very different show. Not only for the fact that we wouldn't be done with it yet, but
Probably.
For the fact that there would have been no fleets. Like, how did
Yeah,
you guys
I mean,
survive?
But,
To
yeah.
Beyonce
So
ships.
I'm just
it
glad
is
I
1
got on
o'clock
one
where
of
I
them.
am. So one final thing. Any other like one question, no matter how spoiler or anything it is, one question from each one of you guys for me about anything from the Kick It campaign.
Oh gosh.
Just one.
I'll go last because it's actually a question I have for everyone.
Okay.
I'll go second to last because I don't have any questions. And I need
Good.
time.
Assuming that it's not going to come up in anything too. What was the secret part of Aruna's backstory you had written, if anything?
Oh shit.
Hmm?
So the thing is, like, I write these things in my head, and I attach them to, as weird as it sounds, I attach them to certain triggers so that when something comes up, I'll remember, because my memory from Valium is a hell of a drug, guys. And apparently it causes brain damage after 6 months. And I was on it for 2 years. I'm
At least you
trying
have
to
an
think what it
excuse.
was. I didn't have a great memory before. Or actually, no, I had an amazing memory before that. Screw me. I used to be able to memorize a credit card in less than a minute. Now I can't remember my PIN number.
Sorry, I'm around you guys. I gotta stop railing.
Never.
For anyone who missed it, Jad said, "Screw me," and Chax went, "Okay."
I'm sorry.
Okay.
My
That was
brain, like,
awkward
I
with
kept
Fix.
I kept it in, but I was like, here?
I guess.
I'm sorry. That'll
I
stop.
love the fact that the people that are taking it seriously both have significant others. That I know. No, I have to admit, I don't think I've
That's
ever
crazy.
had significant interactions with Fix, but I like Angelique. She's wonderful.
She is
Um,
wonderful.
She is wonderful.
So I'm trying to think what backstory thing was. To be perfectly honest, I 100% can't remember unless if it came up in game, I could tell you. But there's so much about your backstory that I can't remember 100%.
I mean, I can read it.
I mean, I remember like most of this stuff. God.
Again, I really want,
Hold it
because
up.
everyone has really cool in-depth backstories, and I know that we talk about them, but I would absolutely love to read your character backstories.
Except for Ilea's, because she will never.
There's a
she will take that
content
to her
warning
grave.
on it.
There's a
That's
sense of
okay.
It's for other people's own safety.
the spark notes of mine is that he was born the day the calamity happened while his parents were out trading. They rushed him to Goron City, survived because, apparently Brack missed. And they just clammed up with the rest of the Gorons in Goron City in the aftermath. He learned how to make bombs from his mom and his aunt who worked in the mines. Eventually his aunt got sick with an unknown illness, and it wasn't turning out very well. And they were running low on medicinal gems. So he ended up battling a Talus out of the borders of the city in Death Mountain. Found enough gems from somehow defeating that to stabilize his aunt, not fully heal her. And so he was just like, there's probably more stuff, further out of bounds. And they're just like, but it's too dangerous. We don't want to leave Goron City. And he wasn't about that. So he left to sort of start trading and try to find medicinal gems.
I think it had something to do about your aunt.
I mean, that's
at one point, I got into my brain. It was your sister.
Only child.
I think it was because the only reason your aunt got as good as she was in the Courage realm was because you did something. Because you don't exist in the other two realms, her life was significantly worse. Again, she didn't die because that would require all three of them dying. But I think I was floating around with the idea that she would have been in some sort of like care facility or something because she couldn't take care of herself any longer because again she got sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker. But because you saved her in one realm, she couldn't actually die in the other ones. So by saving her in one realm, you kind of reduce the quality of life in the other ones.
Fun. Oh, he also met Link as a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Where he was a baby or Link was a baby?
I was a baby.
Both.
I met all the champions. Daruk was my intro right before he died.
My backstory was mostly like about the war specifically.
I think at one point I asked you to actually write me little summaries of all the members of your squad that you never got to me.
I gave you what they did.
Yeah.
Was I supposed to? Oops.
I thought at one point I asked you for more that I never got from you.
Well, if that was the case, then I completely forgot, and I am very sorry.
It happens.
To be fair, Jody hasn't brought it up in over 5 years.
I mean, my stuff was like kind of first, and then I forgot to do anything else with it.
Yeah, you're the reason I couldn't play a Rito.
I'm
sorry?
I guess I can say it now because he's in Boston and can't hurt me. Peyton actually made a huge redemption to create a team of...
Actually, that was going to be my question because a lot of people decided to make fun of Pierre because I was a bird. They called me
Exclamation
the
point,
Snackifice.
Pierre.
Oh no!
Thank you.
Before that, he was the Snackifice.
Yeah, I was
there,
the
there was a lot
Snackifice.
of like
They wanted to throw me
attack
into
on
a
Pierre.
volcano. And Peyton, long before Peyton started doing actual work for ZU, made a bunch of NPCs that was like an arm like group specifically to come after Pierre.
Yeah, it was a bounty hunting group from the Wisdom Realm that was supposed to capture Pierre and make him pay for his crimes. And so I told Pierre, okay, I need names and stuff like that so I can start building characters. And I think without going into stuff that without going into his life, he just stopped talking to me and everyone for like a period of 6 or 9 months.
I think I know why that happened, but we won't talk about it.
I know why it happened.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he wants to. It's nothing bad. Like he didn't go to rehab or anything like
But
that.
people have the right
We
to
won't
choose
talk
what they
about
say
it.
about in their
And
lives.
here
you know,
is now.
No.
Yeah. So here's Peyton. But anyway, so it stopped the communication for like 9 months, and I eventually just went, you know what? We're so far outside of the Wisdom Realm that there's no chance I'm going to be able to bring these in. But that was how I was going to bring back his.
Jesus Christ!
What just happened?
Trying to
Calcifer.
wrangle.
Wonderfully joke.
Calcifer's got the zoomies.
No.
Calcifer can fly.
But yeah, we were starting. We were in the early stages of building that up, and they were actually going to kind of mimic some of your team, and they were going to have relationships to your team and kind of bring that up as they were trying to. And you guys would face them in like 3 or 4 different fights, because you'd face like 1 or 2 on their own, and then the group would get bigger and bigger, and eventually you guys would have to fight all of them.
So really, Pierre, your group was the Team Rocket.
Well, that was
With Les
different.
Meowth.
A competent Team Rocket.
The last episode with Ash and Team Rocket aired in Japan.
Guess I'll wait for the dub.
So, any other questions? Because we gotta end this pretty soon. here.
I have a question for everyone. Future game, not anything significant. Is there one like fun thing you're looking forward to, hoping will end up in the next game?
Next
Right.
campaign.
Yeah.
I'm just excited to play a character without like a huge dramatic backstory. I just want to have. I want this character, my next character, to just be fun, and I'm excited just to have that and to come in with a fresher perspective. That's a little bit more true to just the kind of games I want to play.
I'm
and then
really
figure it
excited.
out.
God, sorry.
That's it.
So, Jax.
Go Jax.
I'm really excited about encountering our characters as different characters. If we are playing different characters. Like, I don't know why. I'm just like ridiculously excited about that.
I get that though, because like especially when playing, like the first one that comes to mind is like Dragon Age, when you run into your past companions or the past player, like there's this weird feeling of like, you don't know what I know, but like,
Yeah.
Inquisition, when they, spoiler alert, when they brought back Dragon Age 2 dude. Great little subplot.
Especially if it's like even coming in and not going our characters is like, oh my gosh, Kestrel, you invented this. I loved this. This was so cool. This changed how my mom cooked, or something stupid like that.
Kess eventually teams up with Arel to create the home shopping network, because Kess makes them and then Arel sells them.
we essentially create the Hyrulean version of Amazon.
We do.
You know,
It's
as long
delivered,
as
like-
Zolta gets to spend the money.
She just
Elias
shadow
is our
steps.
shipping.
She just shadow steps it and delivers it right to your door.
Oh, totally can.
Yeah.
Wow.
And with this subscription, you can have 1-day delivery.
Just be
Multi-
forewarned. Sometimes packages get lost in the
multi-billionaires.
Shadow Realm.
I hate this.
Shikazon is what Imp is coming up with right now.
Shikazon.
Damn, that's
Amazon?
crazy.
So
See all these cool ideas.
So, Elias, Kiri, you guys have things you're excited about?
This is the first time I've ever been in a situation where a second campaign with the same group has happened that I've been a player in. So, like Jax, I'm also excited at the prospect of running into one or two familiar player characters or NPCs as different people with a significant time skip. But aside from that, I'm looking forward to coming up with a different kind of character. I just don't know how different and what flavor of different it will be yet. I have ideas.
I'm really excited about actually seeing what everybody goes with, because everyone's talking about like, oh, I think I want to try something different this time, and seeing like how the dynamic, like obviously as players, our dynamic is kind of the same with how we play off of each other, but like how those characters change that in the in-game world, and just being like, oh. Also, I think we're at a point where like, because when we started, yeah, we all kind of knew of each other a little bit, but I feel like now it's a moment of like, okay, once we get enough information about Jody, about campaign 2, be like, do we want to talk about like, do we know each other? Have we done this? We can like collaborate a bit more on characters, and like, I don't know. I'm excited about creating a story with y'all again.
And now
Like,
that we
more
have
mindfully.
now that we have a Discord chat, we can actually do.
Yeah, I can't believe it took us that long to do that.
I
Actually,
don't know. I actually don't know why it took us until this year to
I
actually
do.
get a
I
Discord
can tell
chat.
you exactly. So when Jody was just like, yeah, I'm gonna start to coordinate stuff 5.5 years ago. I prefer to do this by email. That just helps me and my brain, and I would like to hear from everyone. And I'm just like, all right, man, whatever works for you and works for everybody else. And no one complained about it enough to where it changed. For the next 5 years, we always just had the email threads, which I think was the only email thread I ever had to pay attention to in that entire 5-year period.
Literally.
For
I
other
will
reasons
say-
unrelated to coordination, I made that Discord chat just to like run like something, but like another ZU thing by everyone, and people just started using that instead after that.
It just became easier because I checked Discord more, and like I get right now I have like 300 plus emails between 3 different email accounts.
We've communicated so much more since we've had this chat than we have the entire the entire time together.
I think I brought up with Elias before he made that message about the idea that for campaign 2 I wanted us to have a Discord channel or something for this, because I do that with my other 2 campaigns. Is I have a private channel for each campaign where I can do my. For those of you that don't know, every week that we play, I used to send out an email, and now I send a Discord message saying, hey, we're playing this weekend, who can play? And it's just a way that I deal with my anxiety, because I always have it in my brain that I'm going to show up and no one else is going to be there. And that gives me a lot of anxiety. And so it used to be I'd send an email out and tell people, even if you've told me 1 billion times, I need you to reply to every one of these emails. It just makes it easier for me. And it also ensures that people don't forget. And I had intended that for campaign 2 to eventually ask you guys if it was okay to switch over to Discord. And yeah, then Elias, I think it was for like a Nintendo Direct or something.
I think that was it.
Started it. And yeah, it worked. And yeah, it's so much better. So, anyway.
Is there anything you're looking forward to, Jody?
I'm looking forward to using a new system, because again, don't get me wrong, Open Legends has been wonderful, and it has been so much fun, but I get bored if I do the same thing too often, and it starts to become another source of everything is a source of anxiety for me. It really sucks having untreatable anxiety disorders, because serotonin syndrome sucks. But yes, I'm excited about trying the new system. I'm excited to do the same thing we basically did with Open Legend, which is take a system and then change it to work for us. Because the Open Legend game that we played is unlike any other Open Legend game that exists, because we made so many changes to it. We did so many interesting things with it. And I think Cypher is going to give us that same thing where we're going to absolutely wreck this system to turn it into something really cool.
Exciting.
So yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about just being able to tell a different story. You know, the reason that I do this in my other D&D games is because I badly need a creative outlet. I cannot exist without something that makes me feel creatively fulfilled.
Right.
And it used to be in when I worked, I could get creative with like my training plans, and sales in and of itself is a creative process. But once I became disabled, I had nothing other than my YouTube channel, my D&D games, and so creativity is a drug, and I am 100% addicted to it. And so, as much fun as this campaign was, I was kind of happy to see it come to a close, if for no other reason than I get to tell a brand new story with brand new characters, and I get to see what weird things that you guys do, and how often the story that I write doesn't ever show up. Like that, those are some of my favorite situations where I have a completely legitimate, you know, storyline that I thought was really cool, and then you guys come up with something and I go, that's a shit ton better than anything I wrote. We'll go with that. And it just turns into awesome stuff. So I'm excited about that. Also, I love building characters. And you know, getting down to sit down with each one of you guys and go, okay, what are you thinking? And translating that into a system that I know relatively well. I'm not super great on Cypher, but I know it decent enough so that working with you guys, we get to bend a system to our will again.
And because I need help.
Well,
I've never
I mean,
used it.
It'll be the same thing that happened with Open Legend, which is when we start off, the game will be very different than what we're playing in 6 months to a year to 2 years to 4 years, however long the campaign goes on for.
I love the intro to the Cypher system is your character is the adjective, noun, who verbs. Go. It's like, oh.
It's great. Everything about the Cypher system is super, super fun. And they just did a Kickstarter for some new books that they're going to be releasing. So yeah, I'm pumped. I've already started writing stuff. But anyway, that is going to be all for us today. As always, if you missed any of this or any of the 110 episodes, I really like that we ended on episode 110. I thought that was kind of cool. We have them all right here on the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/ZeldaUniverseTV. If you go to that page and just click on videos and then sort it by collections, there's a collection that contains all of the Realms of the Wild stuff right there. You can watch it right from the beginning. Anyway,
do it
again. That is all from us today, and we will see you guys. Quick question, Elias. Have we 100%? Are we 100% on next week?
Well, considering it was between me and Kiri doing her thing, and Kiri saying she's going to be busy next week. And
I'm at WrestleMania. I'm sorry.
At Wondermania.
WonderCon is this weekend. My bad.
Yeah. I'll do it one shot. I'll be in touch with everyone.
So next week, same regular time we normally do, we will have Elias running something. Follow
the Zelda Open Legend one shot.
So you get another taste of Open Legend, and follow the Twitter channel because 9 times out of 10 we try to tweet about stuff when things change. So it's at Zelda Universe, right?
On what?
On Twitter.
At Zelda Universe.
Yeah.
So at Zelda Universe on Twitter. Otherwise, again, that's all for us, and we will see you guys next week. All right. Bye-bye.